and thanks for coming today. What I want to do is just take you through some of the innovations that we as a company have been doing around data center automation, and hopefully this is a thought-provoking exercise, but gives you a bit of a view on some of the next generation things that are being done right now. This isn't a forward-looking view from our point of view. These are all things that we've got in production today, but hopefully some of you will find it educational, and do hope there's some questions at the end if we have time. So the key point, why care about automation in the first place? Traditional data centers, then I know there's a number of people in here that work for data center operators of different sizes, whether they're service providers or private data centers. Hopefully not all of you have been very unlucky and had to sit on data center floors at 3 o'clock in the morning and trying to fix a stubborn server and you just can't figure out why. But actually, the manual process of running a data center, managing the tin and everything else becomes quite laborious, and it's something that you'd rather just be able to automate away and get rid of for a number of reasons. So first of all, increasing efficiency, being able to actually do things quicker, do things more efficiently, actually be able to get things done. Lowering costs from the point of view that the provisioning and maintenance in data centers can be quite expensive, especially as a service provider. That's apart from power, that's probably the most expensive part. Increasing utilization in data centers. Virtualization is a great tool, but it only gets you so far because you still have the manual processes of managing the workloads. Time to delivery is a massive one, and that's something I'll cover in greater depth during the presentation. And ultimately, remaining competitive. And a lot of that comes down to the other facts above. Time to delivery, especially being able to actually get workloads implemented. If you're a service provider, saying to a customer it's going to take us 2 weeks to get something implemented these days is not acceptable. They're very used to the App Store effect of being able to say, I want this, I expect it in 10 minutes, please. Turning around and saying 2 days is troublesome, let alone 2 weeks. And ultimately, everyone's IT budgets are under pressure. People don't actually want to spend more money on IT and want to cut back the way they do. So one of the key things to look at is, how can I do more with the same, or even less if I have to? And so what we want to just show you is some of the innovations that we've done in this area. And here's the shameless plug for us being recognized for this. There's an independent firm called Infotech, independent analyst, that rated us amongst everybody else in the industry, the Citrixes and VMwares of this world. And if you can see right at the top there, that's us. Rated us on a cloud management platform. I should say we did not pay them to say this. It's truly independent. We're just very glad they did. So the 3 innovations I actually want to show you today are what we call smart filters, bento boxes, and then finally a single global platform. And they probably don't make much sense, but hopefully you'll see how they can be useful later on. So first of all, smart filters. Isn't cloud great? Isn't it wonderful? Doesn't it solve every problem on the planet? You implement a cloud platform, and by this I at least mean a true cloud platform. You can do self-service and on-demand provisioning, and it's awesome. Until you get the fact that you've got virtual machines lying around everywhere, that no one can keep track of what they're doing. You're running up huge bills. There's an entire industry that's out there now just to track your bills running on cloud platforms and actually see how much you're using. It's a real problem to keep track of resources. And one of the other key problems here is the consumerization of IT. More and more end users want to actually deploy and manage workloads themselves. They don't want to go through IT departments. But how do you actually give them an interface that's powerful enough but simple enough for them to use? Because ultimately, they want something they can just get on and use without actually having their mind blown with worrying about lots of unimportant data. And finally, coming back to the first point, lack of visibility. You've got 1,000 virtual machines running on a platform. That's not very many these days. Who's using what? What depends on what? Which department or budget or project is involved with? It becomes very easy to lose those very quickly. And so we built a feature called Smart Filters into our platform that effectively helps you go from that horrible mess to this. And the way it works, I'll show you a couple of examples of how this works. The first one is systems management. And by systems, I mean the physical systems, the physical compute resources, the compute nodes, the networks, etc. And so what I want to show you, this is how our user interface looks, or at least this is one way our user interface can look. And the example of this, is this is a typical systems user that needs to worry about all parts of the system. So they want to worry about the compute nodes, they want to worry about the VMs that are running, they want to worry about all the other parts, so the networks, the storage, the virtual machines. So they've got a fairly complex interface that can actually show them everything, and they've got immediate access to everything they see, which is great, and that's the standard way that a lot of these software will work. But actually, that isn't necessarily that suitable for all users. So in this example, the end users changed it, and they can do this themselves very simply. This is a typical role that a data center operations technician, someone that's actually managing the physical kit in the data center. And so in this context, we've removed a lot of the information because he only cares about a couple of things. He cares about what compute nodes, what physical machines have I got that aren't running for whatever reason. They're in maintenance, they've got an error, because they're things as part of my job I need to worry about. If we've got 1,000 nodes, all I want to see are things that are broken. Same way, what have I got that's running too strongly? What have I got that's got too high a load that I need to look at? And what about my storage systems, or is there any storage systems I need to look at? So it gives him a dashboard that very simply only shows him the information he wants to see. On from there, on to the virtual resources and application management level, which is the real key part in this. And so there's a few different views here. You've got the standard technical users. So this is the standard view that you'd normally get if you have a technical user that wants to look at virtual machines in a very simple way. But as you can see from this is great, but it doesn't give any context. It doesn't give any context to what project or who's working on it or anything else. And if this is a non-technical user, someone from marketing wants to launch a new web application, this is confusing and bewildering, and they won't actually use it. So here's a slightly different view for that same view, exactly the same resources in the platform. And what you'll see now is it's a simplified view for an end user that still has some reasonable technical capabilities. But what we simplified it down so they can only see the servers they've got running, and then they can see the servers they haven't got running. But what you'll notice, as well as the servers they haven't got running, you can also say, OK, this belongs to this particular application, this particular resource, this particular project. And obviously, in this case, it's what we call a deployment instance. So this is part of bento boxes. And you can see that it belongs to the Cloud Expo web cluster. So it gives valuable information as to what they can actually use it for. And then finally, you have exactly the same view again for a very non-technical end user. And at this point, what they're seeing is literally, here is my what our bento box is. I don't know what's in it. I know it's my application. I don't care about the servers, networks, anything else underneath. But from here, I can come in, I can log in, I can control it. But I can also see I've added my own data to this, so I can keep track of it. So I know that this box is it's my project called Automating the Data Center, and it's under the marketing department. And these can be whatever you want them to be. They're the things that the platform itself can be changed to add that kind of information, and you can filter on them and report on them. So if someone wants to deploy this web cluster, for example, that might have 2 machines, it might have 20 machines, they can literally come along, hit the button there, and then say start, and they don't need to worry about any of the resources underneath. So it makes it a lot easier for them to consume. OK, so on to bento boxes. So we're coming up for lunchtime now, so hopefully that will make you a bit hungry. It's certainly making me hungry looking at that every time I have the last few days. Bento boxes is our deliberately quirky name for a major new feature of ours. It was its working title, and it kind of stuck, a bit like Bluetooth in its way. It's a way of being able to package up and deliver complex application templates, because infrastructure as a service is great, but it only gets you so far in terms of actually deploying applications. And the way that works is you've got a drag and drop interface that I'll show you in just a minute that allows you to build these pre-configured stacks and actually have that simple self-service that I was showing you before about being able to deploy them. It enables you to remove duplicated effort. We talk to so many companies where they build the same stacks time and time again with a little bit of difference at the end, and they're having to repeat the whole process. We talked to one company, it took them 2 weeks to change these platforms from one to another every time they started a new project. With this, you can literally go from 2 weeks down to a matter of minutes. And what you can also do is actually, even though you're building these rigid templates, you can actually set them to be customized every time they're deployed. So if you do want to add a little bit of bespoke customization, you can change them each time. And so to explain the motivation behind this, it's a very simple diagram. This is what the traditional provisioning process looks like before infrastructure as a service. And you've basically got a whole bunch of steps. You've got specification of the application and the hardware, so that takes time because you need to think about the future and how it's going to work. Then you've got to buy the hardware and wait for it to be delivered. Then you've got to get the hardware installed and racked and put in the configuration. Then you get the software installed and it's done each time slightly differently and it needs to be repeated. Finally, you have to have the acceptance testing and the roll through. And this is probably familiar to all of you, and some of the numbers up there are deliberately vague, because some of them will be different for different companies in terms of how successful they are. But you're easily looking at weeks to get an application deployed. So infrastructure as a service, which is great, and I'm a big fan of, helps that problem. It doesn't actually solve it from an application point of view. Okay, specifying the application infrastructure. Well, you can stop worrying about it a little bit because of the fact that you've basically, you can put some of that off to the future depending on how the application grows. Okay, you no longer need to worry about the hardware. You've still got to get the infrastructure and the VMs and everything configured and the network configured and everything correct. You've then still got the software installation configuration to do. You've still got the acceptance testing because it's a bespoke deployment each time. And then finally, you get to hand it over to the customer. And so the reality is, infrastructure as a service has solved part of the problem, but it's not solved all of it. And so the bento box provisioning process or the application provisioning process completely changes that, because application infrastructure specification becomes literally a minutes-long job, because you pre-build application templates that are known good templates that you're very happy for your end users or your customers to deploy, that are consistent, so you know you're happy for them to deploy them. So for them, it's a case of, well, which one of these do I want? Do I want small, medium, or large? It's pretty much that simple. Infrastructure installation and configuration, it's completely automated, it's deployed. You can literally deploy network storage, firewall servers in a matter of minutes. The software, it's a known good configuration again, so it's automatically deployed in a matter of minutes. Acceptance testing is much reduced because of the fact that, again, it's a known good configuration. The customers know what they're getting. There isn't human error that's come in that's meant it's not quite as per specification. And ultimately, you end up with a happy customer that much quicker. So that's the theory behind it. What I want to just do now, apologies, it's a little blurry, but I'll actually show you this in action. So yes, this is a recorded demo because I don't trust the Wi-Fi in here. But it actually show you this. So what this is doing now is creating a brand new deployment template from scratch. This is a completely bare template. And what this is actually doing, once you see that, is you can actually go into the designer. You see at the moment it's completely empty. You go into the designer, and from here you can literally build this template graphically, drag and drop the resources in. And so you can literally say, okay, I want 3 or 4 new servers in this template. I then want to be able to set what they're going to be. So that's going to be the load balancer for this. This is a typical web application, so I want a load balancer. And then I want a couple of web servers. Set them to use the web server pre-known image that you want to use. So let's do the second web server. And then do the database server as well, and set that to the database. So you're using a core set of base images, you're then building the application on top. You then say, okay, so I want to add a second network because I want the DB server to run on the private network so that it's not exposed to the public internet. And of course, I then want to add the other servers to run on both networks, so easily add additional virtual networks in. And then finally, of course, you can also add the firewall capabilities in as well. And at this point, what you're doing is building a template. You're not actually building the virtual machines, but you're building the known good template that you can use. And you can literally drag and drop, so you can say, I want to move this disk from here, I want to move this server from here. And whether it's for 4 machines or 40 machines, it's as simple as it is to drag and drop and build those. And so now that we've basically finished the configuration of the servers itself, or just about finished anyway, what we're going to actually add is a little bit of customized deployment, so you can actually change the customization. And the way we do that is with a feature I won't bore you, but it's called keys. But you can basically set an example. So in this one, I set a key of host name and said www.example.com. And now what I can actually do is when I go to manage that, I can get it to actually ask that question each time it's deployed. So each customer can say, as they deploy it, it'll pop up and say, what host name would you like? And it can actually pass that data to the server to make it easier to provision for the customer. So again, it makes it very non-technical for them. So I now set that as a default question, so they can say literally what host name is required, nice and friendly for them. And I could deploy it using this interface here, but just want to show you if you did have it as a very simple view for an end user that was wanting to log in, then the way it would look for them, it's just going to go up now, and I'll just flick to that. So this is how simple it could look for an end user. They're going to log in. It's very simple, very uncluttered. They say, I want to deploy a new application. They go to deploy it. Which application would you like? Give it a name. Choose it. OK, I want to deploy the web cluster. It'll pop up and ask the questions. Very, very user-friendly. What questions need set? OK, set the host name. OK, in this example, Flexiant.com. Save it. That will now automatically create all the resources needed. It will create the servers. It will map the networks, the firewalls, the IP addressing. And you can see there it's now starting to build all those servers automatically. And it's made sure all the mappings are done correctly. And we're literally within a few seconds, that's 3 of the servers created. And this bit is real time. We haven't sped this up. And if you want, we can demonstrate this to you on the stand afterwards. That's now created that template. And very simply, they can now say, I want to start that, tell it to start, and it will now automatically start all the resources. And it needs to allocate them to physical machines. The customer themselves hasn't had to worry about any complications. And whether this is for an end customer or whether this is for a data center technician just trying to work more efficiently, you can easily see how easy it is to get started. And you can now see the VMs slowly starting one by one. That's 3 of them up and running, and the 4th one will start any second now, hopefully. And there you go. That's all the VMs up and running. That's the application deployed. And it's as simple as that to get up and running. So that's a very quick video of how it works. That practically was real-time, edited just to make it tidy, but that's really how quick it is to get it done. So on to the final point. So single global platform. So with us, the key for us with all this is that we want to automate things, we want to simplify things, and we talk to more and more customers that are wanting to deploy larger and larger data center infrastructure, and so many of them still end up with a siloed architecture of I've got a cluster here and I've got a cluster here. And I was talking to one potential customer of ours who's got 15 clusters around the world that he manages all of them separately. So what you can do with this platform is build one single global cluster that you can deploy multiple different hypervisors, multiple different locations across the planet. With a customer today, for example, that is deploying across 2 different continents right from the word go, and you can log in and manage that from one single portal. Scale to thousands of VMs and have all those kind of capabilities for end user self-service, the smart filtering capabilities, and the bento boxes. So you can imagine being able to log into a single portal that has literally got all of those capabilities. The possibilities and the automation, the efficiency that you can actually deliver with that is quite amazing compared to some of the traditional architectures. If you were involved in data centers for as long as I have been, the changes are quite immense. I had customers that we'd take a month to get up and running because they had some really bespoke requirements, and you can now deliver those same kind of capabilities literally in minutes rather than a month. Okay, so just very quickly in summary, that's three of the innovations that we've been working on. We've actually been working on this software now for 8 years. We had it in production with customers for 5. We think it's data center automation at a level that's never before been possible. We think it's pretty awesome in terms of its capabilities and how it can help people, because at the end of the day, we've built this to actually solve a problem for people. One of the key things when we talk to data center operators and data center technicians and managers is they can sometimes be a bit scared of this and go, well, it's going to do me out of a job. And the answer is, well, no, it's going to do you out of doing the annoying, repetitive tasks that you don't actually like doing, so you can upskill to do things that are more interesting and better for your career. That's the way to look at these things. Ultimately, enabling the end users, more and more end users want the ability to consume resources and get them quickly and efficiently. Because what you're finding, you may or may not know it, But if your end users can't come to you, whether you're in an IT department or as a service provider, if your end users can't come to you and get these resources, they are just going around you anyway. And so the way to win this and get them on side is to actually be able to deliver the resources for, that they need, and then they'll gladly use them internally. And ultimately, do more with less. Just to repeat the point right back at the beginning, that IT budgets are very much under pressure, margins are under pressure, and hopefully you can see from this quite how different you can actually change the processes and make them more efficient. Okay, so that's pretty much me. Thank you very much, everyone. If you do want to come and see a demo of the platform or want to ask more about how it works, please do come and see us at 337. We've also got the coffee lounge right next door, so please do stop by for a coffee and have a chat with some of our guys there if you're interested. And finally, there's one more presentation of ours today, which is at 12:40, which if you are a service provider that's got a reseller strategy or looking at a reseller strategy when you're deploying cloud services, then it's well worth going to see that session at 12:40 today. Thank you very much, everyone. If there's any questions, very happy to answer any. We've got a few minutes left, so. Yep, one at the back. Yep.
Sorry. Hi, do you guys offer management services for public cloud offerings as well?
Sorry, I couldn't.
Public cloud.
We don't manage public cloud at the moment. It's something that we're considering. Our primary focus has been on people building their own cloud platforms. Okay, well, thank you, everyone.